And really looking forward to tonight's show. Fight Night Picks, question mark kicks. Make sure you head on over to the website, fightnightpicks.com. We've got all sorts of great stuff. The full card betting guide, the full previews, the podcast, episodes of Early Stoppage, and might I add, you should check out the store. There's all kinds of great products over there. We have the new shirts, new merch dropping all the time, including that new red Under Armour t-shirt. So head on over to the website, fightnightpicks.com. And as we always say, let's get into it. Fight Night Picks is brought to you by Vertiball. Head on over to their website. It's vertiball.com. And listen, it's an awesome product. It's a local company out of New Brunswick, Canada. So make sure you support those guys locally as well as Fight Night Picks. But they're the only mountable portable muscle massager. They can stick on any smooth surface. They've got an industrial strength suction cup. Can support over 100 pounds of pressure. You can get really into those deep knots. I have one here at home. I use it for my back and my shoulders from holding up that Fight Night Picks Pick'em trophy. But listen, make sure you check them out. It's a great product. Like I said, they're recommended by physiotherapists, masseuses, and chiropractors across Canada, the US, UK, and Australia. And they're used by countless professional athletes like Minka Fitzpatrick on screen there, as well as Clellan Farrell of the Raiders. So if you head into the cart, make sure you check them out. So I've got a Vertiball massager in my cart right there. Use the promo code FNP. You're going to save 10% off your order. You're supporting this company here that I'm very passionate about in New Brunswick, Canada, and you're helping out us as well. So make sure you check them out, vertiball.com, promo code FNP, 10% off your order. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt Allen.
And Matt, we have a card tonight, and it's a pay-per-view card. And guess what? You can pay to watch it. You can pay to watch it. You can pay to watch it, or you can pay to watch it, then you can hang out with us too, because we're going to be having a fight companion starting 5 minutes before that pay-per-view card starts. And it is unfortunate that Robertson Maverick just got scratched. I saw the tweet from Mark Raimondi. Eldar up there in the chat helping everybody out. So it's unfortunate that Robertson Maverick is off the card. It's unfortunate that Miller and Green is off the card. Heck, it's even unfortunate that Rivera Munoz is off the card. But overall, there's a lot of good fights on this one. I'm not going to have a two-leg parlay today on this because, as an aside, I'm not gambling on tonight's card. I just don't see much of a point. The fights are all right. I'm looking forward to them. I know that's a bad start to the show, but overall, it's a tricky one.
Yeah, like, I'm just going to let this be known right now. I have no money being bet tonight, and that's very odd. Normally, it could be a Tuesday night. I would at least have $1 on some kind of a basketball game. Just going to sit back and enjoy the fights tonight, and that's really all I can say about this pay-per-view card. Is it a pay-per-view card worthy? Like, if Dana White picked a bad time to start going after illegal streamers, it was recently. Because people are going to be trying to do that on a card like this. And it is unfortunate, too. You look at a guy like Kamaru Usman. He has all those X factors. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you Kamaru Usman's going to become the biggest star in the world by any means. But he speaks very well. He's an extremely dominant champion. He's a handsome guy. Like, he does have all those things going for them. And then the UFC gives them cards like this to try to promote him. It's just kind of tough to get big stars when you're giving people pay-per-views like this. Because it's not like 700,000 people are rushing to their televisions tonight to go buy the pay-per-view starring Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns. For you and me, for you guys, it's a very exciting main event, but it's not the best pay-per-view we've ever been given.
No, and I'll be totally honest. Again, no cheddar on this card, but I'm really looking forward to a lot of these matchups. I know we were talking before the show, that fight might not be that great. That fight's not that great. And overall, you look at next week's Fight Night card. I mean, you've got Curtis Blades taking on Derek Lewis. There's so many fun fights on that card too, and a lot of names that we haven't seen for a long time. But then I look at this, and it is what it is. There's some really good matchups, and I know we're going to go up and down through the entire card, but Andre Ewell, Chris Gutierrez, I threw it out there, and I even said at the start of the week, and it kind of prefaced this entire week, I don't have a ton of confidence in the pick, but overall, I love the fight. Gabe Green, Philip Rowe, I love the fight. Dhiego Lima, Belal Muhammad, that's an interesting one too. So, if we look back over into the comments, again, the comments are going to come flowing. It's going to be quick. It's going to be hard to follow along. Najai is saying, it's fight tonight. Going to win big tonight from Cody Kelleher. The tweet was from, Mark Raimondi saying, the scheduled UFC 258 matchup between Gillian Robertson and Miranda Maverick is off per the UFC. Robertson has non-COVID related illness and is withdrawn. That's unfortunate.
It really is. Listen, I was more excited for that fight. I just got done saying on Instagram how excited I was for that fight, even though it was the first fight on the card. And listen, big Julian Robertson fan, but Miranda Maverick does kind of look like she could be the next big star in that division. There's not a lot of people who try and get in line to fight Valentina Shevchenko right now. The division's one of those rare kind of areas where it's just raise your hand and you might get picked. So if Miranda Maverick, let's say she could go out there and finish Robertson impressively tonight, then they match her up with someone who is a little bit further up in the top 15. We could be seeing a Miranda Maverick in that top 10 very soon. So it is unfortunate that we aren't going to see such a nice rising young star tonight. But again, there are still some great fights. Ian Heinisch making the return. Kelvin Gaslam's hopefully trying to break a losing streak. This card is not awful by any means.
And I got to head into the chat again. Bronson saying we should start doing an underdog pick of the night. I mean, I'm not putting any money on it once more. And Adams JATX, I know I had the 2 first. They've been good. They've been what, like 3 for 3 or 4-0 or whatever they are. They haven't missed this year. But, you know, if you don't want to miss, then you just skip a week, and I think that's fine. So, let's go over to a screen that we love from the original previews that we have at the start of the week, but they had to change because we had Munoz and a really tough out in Jimmy Rivera. In the rematch, that was always going to be our fight of the night, and that one was out really early on in the week. So, we switched that one up with a middleweight tussle on our main card. We have Kelvin Gastelum taking on Ian Heinisch, and I really like this fight because it's one of those ones. What do we really get? I mean, with Ian Heinisch, former LFA champ, he's done so-so in the UFC. Every time they've given him a step up, he really hasn't looked all that good. And for Kelvin Gastelum, on a 3-fight skid, is he still that top dog that we've come to kind of know and love here in the last couple of years? I know one of his coaches over on the Embedded said, well, Kelvin hasn't looked this good in 4 or 5 years.
Time.
Well, that's a long time, and he looked good like 2 years ago. So where is Kelvin Gastelum these days?
I mean, we had kind of joked about it before. If you do go back and watch the Embeddeds, if you're just betting solely on the training that they've done throughout those tiny little 4-minute video series every single day, Kelvin Gastelum should have your money. He at least was in the gym, whereas Ian Heinisch was, you know, hanging out with family and whatnot, and fishing and having a good time, honestly. Ian Heinisch was having more fun in camp, I can probably tell you that much. Really excited for this fight, though. Kelvin Gastelum is always one fight away from being a main event, it feels like. And whether that's a fight night main event, whether that's fighting for a belt, something is always on the horizon for Kelvin Gastelum. I know that's kind of a weird position for him to be in, but he's not just a ranked fighter, and he's not a star by any means. He's kind of that weird in-between where it's, well, you've done quite a bit in the sport. You've had one of the greatest fights ever. People remember you for the Adesanya performance. We only can put you in there with other killers, and that's why on 3-fight losing streaks, you normally don't have to fight Ian Heinisch for your 4th fight, but that's how good Kelvin Gastelum is, and that's how high the UFC must respect Kelvin Gastelum, because if you're losing 3 fights in a row, normally they hand you, and I don't want to be disrespectful, so I'm not going to name a name, but normally they hand you someone of the skill level that's not on Ian Heinisch. So I think this is a phenomenal fight.
It's a good fight, and a lot of people in the corner of Kelvin Gastelum over in the comments. Let's pick one out right here. Jack Lawson, I hate to say it, but Kelvin looks like he doesn't like fighting anymore. He's been my favorite since Tough. And listen, the fight against Darren Till, almost a non-starter, because it's tough to fight a guy like Darren Till. You usually end up fighting a mirror, and it's really tough to really get going. And then in the fight against Jack Hermanson, yeah, that one didn't look all that great. But Todd makes a good point, saying fighting for your job is big. And we've seen these 3-fight losing streaks ended. Marcin Prachnio, Alessio Di Chirico. There's been a few of them here recently. Maybe Kelvin Gastelum is one of the other ones that's able to kind of reverse that trend. And then our original second hipsters pick for fight of the night. And I think there's been a lot of traction on this one so far this week. We have Gabe Green taking on the Fresh Prince, Philip Rowe. I love this fight because, again, Philip Rowe has that length. And he's got that height, and then Gabe Green just has the pressure. And I saw a lot of people this week. I went and watched some of the tape out there to see what other people were saying on YouTube. A lot of people really down on Gabe Green, thought he didn't look all that great against D-Rod. And maybe he got beat in terms of total strikes. And maybe he got beat 30-27. But he did surprise me in that fight, having spent 2.5 years on the shelf, and then to go out there against D-Rod on short notice and look like that.
Still going to call you out a little bit, although I agree with everything you've said.
And he's a grappler and he struck.
But here's the thing. You call me out when I say Volkov looked really good in a loss to Curtis Blades, and people don't give Gabe Green that same respect when they talk about him with Daniel Rodriguez. He lost every minute of that fight. But the thing you have to remember is Daniel Rodriguez knocks out the majority of really good welterweights he fights. He made his UFC debut against Tim Means and not only beat him, but finished him in their fight. And finished him by submission of all things, too. So Gabe Green, I am very high on him. I liken him to sort of a Yusuf Zalal, where yes, you've lost to some good guys, but I still think you do have a fairly bright future. For Philip Rowe, the ceiling is there, but I've just seen so many, I guess, lapses in his defense. He can get cracked, and that's what makes this fun so fight. And I think he would set up really well.
Fun so fight.
That's what makes this fight so fun. Philip Rowe is hittable, but he is a great striker himself. He will stay on the outside. Gabe Green can grapple, but when he gets hit, he gets that kind of Fabricio Verdum, like, I gotta get that one back and rush at you and try to, get it back. But he is such a good grappler, like you had mentioned. So we do see the different phases of MMA from Gabe Green a little bit more often, but I agree. This is a very fun fight.
JS is hanging out. Voodoo is hanging out. Who else do we have in the chat? We've got Keith Allen. Keep saying that the Allens rule. You're on the Burns train.
Right.
We got Jawan hanging out. SAPT, that's not true. Now, when we look at this fight overall, again, we have the fight companion coming up later on tonight. It's 10 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. We're going to start at 5 minutes early, so maybe we catch the last little bit of Adolfo Vieira and Anthony Hernandez. But I suspect with 3 fights falling off this week, and the only one added in was the Ewell fight, where he's taking on Gutierrez, and Ewell's already booked here early on. Like, it's a really weird one, so we'll see what happens in this one in terms of pacing. They did move the card back a half hour, in the last couple of days, because we were originally going to be, an hour and a half long show. Now we have about 2 hours. I'm sure that as this goes along, it's going to, they're probably going to push it back another half hour too. And I want to hit up the super chat.
Thank you.
You can support the boys like Garrett did over there. It's a strange card, not worth $70. I'll give you all a parlay. Barber by decision, Muhammad by decision, and you've got Martin on the money line. Now, Mallory Martin on the money line. That's an interesting one.
I mean, I won't give away our prediction yet, but if you watched our videos earlier this week, I can't really disagree with many of those. The only one, Barber could finish Grasso, but kind of same thing back. Bilal Muhammad's one of the safer picks. His wrestling is so dominant. We've seen Dhiego Lima struggle against guys like Bilal Muhammad, so yeah, I think that's a fairly good parlay.
We've got STJB 1002 watching from Mid-Coast, Maine. Don't rub it in. I miss Maine so much every day. We've got Cody Kelleher hanging out. Who else do we have? Google account. You're hanging out from Ontario. I can tell you one thing. It is cold as all get out in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. What else? Giancarlo's hanging out. You're from Peru, if I'm not mistaken. TJ hitting us up with the $2 super chat. Hi. Where to put this Maverick green money now? I don't know. Again, I'm not putting much on it. I know Scott Sacco's not liking that. The Tekashi 6'9" fan. And I apologize, but that's just the way that it goes. Ryan's upset about the fight falling off in the first place. Who isn't? That face, though, yo, what's up? How's it going? All right, Matt, let's rip down through this card. And again, that main event is a great one for the title. But now our first fight, assuming they don't jumble everything up once more, is the fact that we have Gabe Green taking on Phil Rowe. And we just got done talking about that fight. But I really do think it's a good one. The trouble is, and I noticed a lot of people talked about this, on Philip Rowe's record, maybe not the strongest level of competition going into the fight against Leon Shabazi, and then you really get to find out, hey, what's this guy made of? Well, apparently bricks. Apparently his chin is made of bricks or solid concrete, because he got absolutely rocked in that first round against Leon Shabazian, to the point where you thought Shabazian was going to pound away and finish it, and then you have Rowe pop right back up.
Okay, I think you need to give us a little bit more credit than you have been, because you say people talked about Philip Rowe. Craig, we talked about Philip Rowe in the videos earlier this week. We said his record is a little salty. We said he hasn't fought a high level of competition, and we also mentioned that in his last fight, he really fought the only, and I'm going to use the term live opponent, that he's ever been in there with. And it is weird for Philip Rowe. Yes, he beats guys he's supposed to beat.
Todd's saying Phil Rowe looks like Norm Powell. That's got to be the comment of the show.
A little bit, honestly. Good call. So, Norm Powell, I would honestly think might have a better chance in this fight. I like Gabe Green in this one. I like his grappling. I just like his overall game plan a little bit more. If you look at Philip Rowe, yes, he can go out there. He could get the knockout if Gabe Green does get into one of those kind of brawls. If he doesn't go to his bread and butter. And this is what I worry about with Gabe Green. I always think of Frank Camacho when I think of Gabe Green, because he will strike with you, even though he is a good grappler. And I don't want that to be the story of Gabe Green's career, where everyone's saying, oh, he's a great grappler, but he will just go out there and strike with everyone. So hopefully that's not the version we get looking forward in his UFC career, but I like Green.
Over in the super chat, Mehdi is saying, if Usman were to win, what way would he do so? Probably a decision, I would think.
He gets paid by the hour, and he likes going full 25 minutes. It's nothing against Usman. It's he's built for that kind of style, so decision's your best bet.
Jawan has Rowe. We've got Ryan with Green. We've got Salvador. Let's get into it. Yeah, I mean, hey, this super chat is bumping, and there are a lot of people tuning in already for a card that is what it is. Now, with Gabe Green, do you expect him to strike right off the bat? I know we've said this, and we've kind of said it in a joking manner here recently, especially about our old pal Gaetano Pirello when he's taking on Ricky Simone, but every fight starts on the feet. And you look at Gabe Green, every fight starts on the feet. You look at all the fights that he had before he came in and fought D-Rod. a lot of submission wins, a lot of nice finishes, and one of those OG Bellator guys. Do you think he's going to go right in and try and take Phil Rowe down?
When you say OG Bellator, you make it sound like it was Michael Chandler. He is Gabe Green.
He's like Joe Warren.
But here's the thing. He has the ability to take the fight to the mat. Will he? It's up to him. Like, I doubt the fight's going to be going so poorly 5 seconds into it that he immediately shoots a panic double leg. I just like the fact that, yes, if Gabe Green is getting outstruck on the feet, he can take it down to the mat. I don't look at Philip Rowe, and I don't see a guy who has enough power to really make Gabe Green want to stay so far on the outside that he can't even initiate himself. So I like Green by decision. I don't predict a finish for either guy.
Cody Kelleher coming in from Iowa City. Again, I've been to Dubuque. It's a great place. And, yeah, Dhiego asking Maverick plus Green. Well, Maverick's off the card, and I'm assuming you're talking about Bobby Green. He's also off the card, so that's rough. Ed asking if Maverick's really canceled. I wouldn't lie about that. I take this very serious. Matt, we have Andre Ewell taking on Chris Gutierrez. I love this fight, and again, I've seen the narrative out there. I did the snooping, and a lot of people are high on the fact that Chris Gutierrez is a great kicker, and it's not just that one fight where obviously he won the fight due to TKO with the old leg strikes, but he can get it done in a lot of different ways. He might not have the hardest of punching power. He might not have the best wrestling or the best grappling, but he is very well-rounded, and he is a lot of fun to watch.
He really is, and for Andre Ewell, he's just going to be happy he won't be defending takedowns in this fight, because Cody's statement, listen, you know what his game plan is going to be. Going to single leg, going to double leg, going to win a decision. So now Andre Ewell will allow his striking to open up a little bit more, because with Andre Ewell, we talk about his boxing, he does have good kicks as well, and he does have that sort of longer karate stance that we all know and love him for, because he does like to do that little, I'll dart in, hit you with a big shot, and dart back out. It's going to be an interesting fight because you bring up the leg kicks. And the leg kicks, of course, they're always important nowadays in MMA, and we're always going to bring up the fact that Benson Henderson used to do calf kicks before anyone else. But that really is the counter to Andre Ewell. You can either wrestle him to just not let him strike, or take away his legs and take away the power and just really the overall footwork of Andre Ewell. Because the one great thing about Ewell is he uses his footwork to defend the takedowns before you even get to him in the first place. So I do like Ewell by decision in this fight, but I'm much more excited for this fight than I was with his first matchup.
And D, and then the rest of your name, toss out those cancellations if you can. Just copy and paste them every now and again. It'll help out a lot. Scoobs! With the Scooby Snacks and $15 in the Super Chat saying, love you guys, missed the last few question mark kicks. You guys convinced me Marino Rodriguez could no out. He bossed me and the boys made money on the TKO ordering your Fight Night gear this week. We appreciate that. I've got some over there. You can get the Under Armour Fight Night Picks shirt over on the store, fightnightpicks.com. The gray shirts, there's Under Armour hats over there as well. Sircon is saying no money on this card tonight. I don't have money on it either. And Adams JATX, yes, I do love shutting the people down. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really looking forward to this card. I am. I know it seems like I'm kind of pushing the narrative a little bit.
But I actually enthusiasm coming from Craig,
No. But I'm actually excited. But as far as this fight's concerned, you bring up some good points. And I remember doing the tape study with Andre Ewell, and I mentioned it in the original prediction video. You watch him stand, and he's got that long frame. Sometimes he's kind of struggled with his reach, but he's one of those guys that we've seen it get, incrementally better over his fight career. It's not like he's the Stefan Struve of the division. He's not the best, but he's not the worst. But the thing that he does is he plants on his heel, and then he can kind of spin around with his foot.
Pivot.
But he still stays on that heel. You can chop it away. So there is definitely an opportunity for Chris Gutierrez to get the win in this fight. Matt, for the first time on this card, let's go over to the voters at Fight Night Picks over on Instagram. You can find us there every Saturday, so long as the card's on Saturday. You can get the votes in over there. Of course, that Maverick fight is off. And if we look at Philip Rowe, Gabe Green, 54% went with Rowe. If we look at this fight, 53% going with Andre Ewell, 47% going with Chris Gutierrez. That's good for 241 total votes for Andre Ewell with the cool hair, and for Chris Gutierrez, 212. Does that surprise you at all?
I like Gutierrez as an underdog. Again, I'm not predicting him to win by any means. I'm just saying this as I like him on short notice. This is a really fun fight, and I'm really, really excited for this fight just as a fight. I like Andre Ewell. He's a more proven guy. It's tough to beat Andre Ewell with a full training camp, but I do think this is going to end up being a very entertaining fight.
Yeah, I mean, again, not tossing down any cheddar on this one. But if you want to toss cheddar down, there's always merch there. Matt, our next fight, Polyana Viana taking on Mallory Martin. And this is a really interesting fight because for Polyana Viana, you look at just everything before the UFC. And I had somebody send me a DM saying, Polyana Viana sucks.
They're not wrong.
It is what it is, but you look at her outside of the UFC, she had the win over Heba, she had a lot of first-round finishes, she comes into the UFC, she fights J.J. Aldrich, it doesn't go well, she fights Hannah Cifers, it doesn't go well, she fights Veronica Macedo, she gets submitted, and then she gets taken down in her next fight, and she wins. She gets the submission win her last time out. The level of competition, maybe not the greatest. Again, Aldrich, well, that fight was pushed by the UFC, it was on a main card of a pay-per-view. The pay-per-view was better than this one. You had Hannah Cifers, who kind of rocked her, and they got a split decision win. Macedo with the submission via the armbar, and then Emily Whitmire with the 500 record. And for Mallory Martin, Matt, again, her first UFC fight against a former Invicta champ, Viana Jandiroba. I know I'm really high on Viana, and I think a lot of other people are. I wasn't, listen, I picked her to beat Mackenzie Dern, and I'll always have that in my back pocket, but I thought she didn't look terrible, and I really think highly of Mackenzie Dern too. For Mallory Martin to go out there and, get submitted early, it is what it is, but for her to go out there against Hannah Cifers, maybe not win the first round, but look all right. No, she didn't look great in that first round. But in the second round, a rally, I really do like that. Her wrestling's great, and it's definitely really good, for this strawweight division. I like Mallory Martin in this fight. Polyana Viana is definitely going to be slippery off her back, especially in those positions where she can roll for an arm or she can go for a triangle. So if you're a big Mallory Martin supporter, you got to watch out for that. It should be an interesting fight, and I'm eager to see where a win places one of these women, because I feel like you win this fight, you probably take on like a prospect or somebody who's coming into the UFC.
If Polyana Viana wins this fight, she stays in the UFC. And that's the best thing I can say about her, because you just listed off the 3 women who she had lost to before beating Emily Whitmire. And again, there's a great example. So Polyana Viana loses 3 fights in a row. Then they give her Emily Whitmire. Kelvin Gaslam loses 3 fights in a row. They give him Ian Heinisch. There's levels. That's all I'm saying. Polyana Viana reminds me exactly of Ariane Lipski, because you hear about all these crazy things she did outside the UFC, and then she shows up and you're excited for all those crazy things that you once heard about, and you're like, well, okay. Like, it's like buying something off Wish. You think you're going to get the real thing, and then it's not exactly what you want.
Our ring lights from Wish is pretty good.
Okay, but just let the joke be. I don't think Polyana Viana is going to have this crazy long UFC career. I like Mallory Martin. She's not a reactive fighter. She's at least the one taking initiative in her fights, whereas Viana just kind of waits for her opponent to make the decision, and then she reacts to it. And listen, if you're a phenomenal fighter, if you're Conor McGregor in 2015, you can do that. You can wait on your opponent. You have such great reaction time. You have such great knowledge of the sport that you're going to be able to react to what your opponent's doing. Polyana Viana does not have that level of athleticism, those kind of quick twist muscles. I don't know how Viana wins this fight. I get she has decent grappling, but it's a lot easier to submit someone like Emily Whitmire, who's a good wrestler, but not a great grappler, compared to someone like Mallory Martin, who's kind of the flip side of that. She's a good wrestler, but I would say her bread and butter is a lot more alongside the jiu-jitsu side of it. So honestly, I kind of expect Mallory Martin to just go for a lot of takedowns, not do anything crazy on the ground, just stay sound defensively, and try to rinse and repeat for a decision.
It's one of those ones that's really tricky. Again, I wouldn't have, a ton of confidence in it. Garrett Rincon, yeah, we did get a ring light from Wish. I bought a couple of them from there, and they showed up in terrible boxes that were very damaged, but they ended up working pretty good. So that is what it is. Ryan Wilson, most confident pick. Probably Belal Muhammad, actually, and I'll say that right
he's
now.
The biggest favorite on the
card.
But
yeah, he went. He was a minus like 335 or thereabouts when we made the original video. He's a minus 500 now, so it's been a big shift for Belal Muhammad. Matt, let's have a look at the odds on this one, because we really haven't been focusing on that. Because again, we didn't toss any Ched. Holy smokes, Mallory Martin was a minus 170 favorite, and then all the late money came in on Polyana Viana. Martin's now minus 122, and for Polyana Viana, around a plus 110 or so. That's a big surprise.
Is it? Again, and neither one of these fighters have shown me that much in the UFC. The odds should be around even. Again, I like Mallory Martin in this fight. I just think she's the more well-rounded out of the two. But I'm not going to predict that either one's going to make a top 5 anytime soon.
Mr. Luxury hitting us up in the super chat. Great night of fights ahead. I've got my eye on a few underdogs tonight. Let's get into it. And Raymond Lucas saying, you guys are my favorite Canadians right after Terrence and Phillip. Will they make a movie after us too? Fighting the Canadians? I'm ready to join the Vieira fan club. Gutierrez, Gaslam, Grasso for the 3Gs. I've had a couple of people, little inside baseball, because we have a lot of time, and listen, people are hanging out and having fun. The Pop and Popcorn Fights t-shirts, people seem to want them. The next thing that I order in is probably going to be a Pop and Popcorn type shirt that you'll be able to find on the store. But some of these fun ones, the Barstools of the world, they do these cool ones. Maybe the Vieira fan club will be something, and we'll get Rodolfo in on it.
It might be. Rodolfo, again, if anyone was on that train, Craig's the conductor over here. No one loves Rodolfo the way Craig loves Rodolfo.
Yikes. Fusion XL might. If we have a look at Fight Night Picks over on Instagram, 53% on Viana, and you have 47% on Mallory Martin. Again, we talked about it, the fact that Viana is one of the biggest movers and shakers on the card. But in terms of overall line movement on best fight odds, you're not really going to see it because Martin opened pretty high and then it dipped and then it went right back up. But again, a little bit of a surprise in that one that there's so much, so many people going the way of Viana to me. Matt, Belal Muhammad, Dhiego Lima, this is a fight that we had already done a video on it, and we were already looking forward to it, and then I deleted it. It all got lost in the fire, and then we did another video on it, and some people were critical in the fact that maybe we didn't give enough pass to victory for Dhiego Lima, so let's do that now.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
There you go. There's the path to victory. I don't have one. Belal Muhammad is going to run away with this fight, and this is the story. We talked about this in other fights. When you look at Dhiego Lima's record and you look at the guys who have given him trouble, it's just fighters who are worse versions of Belal Muhammad. Like Jesse Taylor, especially at the time, was a much past his prime fighter who had been fighting on like KSW here and there. He wasn't really involved in the best fighters. Or he wasn't out there with the best fights. And then all of a sudden, he gets dropped by Dhiego Lima, takes his back and chokes him out in 5 seconds in the second round of the fight. And I'm thinking, hey, this is weird. And then that just keeps on being the story of Dhiego Lima's career. On the feet, is he dangerous? Yes, he's very dangerous. But he's not like a Douglas Lima. And of course, that's who I'm going to keep on bringing up. He's not going to go out there and start you with one punch. Rip Chad Laprise. But Belal Muhammad is a very defensively sound fighter, and he knows what he's good at. He's not like a Sarah McMahon who's going to go out there and try to strike with you and try to do, get into these long grappling exchanges with you. Belal Muhammad, is he good at wrestling? He's great at it. Is he good at jiu-jitsu? Great at that, and he knows it. I love Belal Muhammad in this fight, and I honestly don't know how Dhiego Lima wins this other than just catching him with a lucky shot.
That's the thing. I really do like Belal Muhammad in this fight. The win for me that really kind of cemented that Belal Muhammad is one of those guys, he's really perpetually stuck. He can never really get into that top 15 and make a move. He's almost like your Vicente Luque in certain respects, and now Vicente ranked 10th in the world. But you look at his last 3 wins: Curtis Millender, striker; Takashi Sato, striker; and Lyman Good, striker. Decision, rear naked choke, decision. And I think I'm too high on Takashi Sato at this point.
You are.
I think I psyched myself up that he's going to be that next.
You did just compare him to Vicente Luque.
Yikes. But for Belal Muhammad, it's more Belal Muhammad. But for Belal Muhammad, yeah, it's really tough. I mean, Dhiego Lima is not Douglas, and we can say that until the cows come home. And I do agree with Todd saying Lima has hands, for sure. Nori saying, are you guys related?
Our mom and dads are the same. I don't know. He was born 4.5 years before me. Then I was born.
One of my favorite edits that I put in a video, Tire Pump, was the, hey, brother. And it was like 2 seconds, but that's a story for another day. If you like those edits, let me know. I'll keep those coming because we like to have fun with this stuff. And Nori, we appreciate the super chat. But yeah, I don't have Lima in this one. I have Belal Muhammad. Again, he is probably, he's the biggest favorite on this card. You've got Muhammad as a pretty big favorite, and then the next fight you get a pretty big favorite. But Muhammad opened to -350. He's now -481 on best fight odds. And if you have a look at Dhiego Lima, open to +285. He's now a +359 in terms of those odds. Yeah, I mean, Dhiego Lima could starch Belal Muhammad on the way in, but Dhiego Lima's not one of those strikers like Dan Hooker, like Corey Sandhagen. He can throw hooks on the entry. He can, but he doesn't throw a lot of those straight shots. So for me, I don't have Lima in this one. I have Belal Muhammad. I've liked Belal Muhammad since I found out about this one, and Rumble makes a good point. Hey, Hermano.
Also, Belal Muhammad, degree in law. Why are you fighting, Belal?
I don't know.
You got other things going on.
Can't really tell you about that one, Matt. Let's move into our next fight. We have... Choo-choo! I'm the conductor, the hype train. Adolfo Vieira, but that comes with a huge caveat. This guy is a big favorite, and I get it. He's undefeated. All of the submission wins are great. I've seen a few people this week kind of not super high on his wrestling. Again, Oscar Piota, he had 3 takedowns against Piota. Maybe you don't love that Oscar's getting up. Oscar, black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's the black belt hunter, Adolfo Vieira. In his fight against Saperbeg Safarov, he eats a front kick to the eye, and his eye swells up to the size of a grapefruit. And you don't like to see that. But with Adolfo Vieira, if you really want to see a great fight, and I'll pronounce the name so long as my memory serves me correct, it was his fight over with ACA before he got into the UFC that won me over with Adolfo Vieira, and that's why I've been on the train. It was the win over Vitaly Nemchinov, where he finishes him by first round rear naked choke. And what does he do, Matt? I said it in the video.
Finishes him by first
He
straight.
goes like Edge, he powers a double leg, slams him down, and he ends up getting the back and choking him out. And Nemchinov's not a bad fighter. Like, listen, if Dana White's watching, I know all the best fighters are in the UFC. However, Nemchinov's a pretty good fighter, and so is Adolfo Vieira. For Anthony Hernandez, this is one of those ones that, if he loses this fight, I know he's a former LFA champ, but that's probably it for poor Fluffy.
Oh, 100%. Okay, Rodolfo Vieira, just to speak on his wrestling a little bit, he reminds me a lot of Megaton Diaz. And Megaton Diaz is Mackenzie Dern's dad, of course. They call him that because of his judo and how good he is with judo hip tosses, because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like a bomb when he hip tosses people. It's not that Rodolfo uses judo, it's that wrestling-wise, he kind of reminds me of a Jacare or of a Megaton Diaz, where he doesn't have to rely on all those really, let's just call them what they are, kind of lazy or trip takedowns. He will go in there similar to a guy who we're going to see in the main event, a Gilbert Burns, who you're like, okay, their bread and butter is jiu-jitsu, but when they fight a let's just say, collegiate wrestler, they look like they themselves could be a collegiate wrestler. Rodolfo Vieira is like that. He is one of the better wrestlers for a pure jiu-jitsu guy, and that's what you love about his style. There's so many great grapplers who, they've got great stand-up, they have great jiu-jitsu, they just don't really have the wrestling in between to decide where the fight's going to take place. You see that with Brian Ortega, he's a great example. Now, granted, he's just phenomenal at both of them, so he doesn't really have to worry about where the fight is. Rodolfo, I'm great at jiu-jitsu, I'm great at wrestling. I know what I'm good at, and I think that's such an important point, especially when you're moving your way up the ranks. Rodolfo Vieira is going to beat pretty much every unranked UFC fighter just by doing what he's good at. If he can go out there, secure that takedown, especially in the first round of a fight when both guys are dry, he's just going to get a bunch of submission wins. So I love Rodolfo in this. I'm not conducting the hype train, but I'm definitely on it.
And a really good point by Todd. Only 93 likes. Let's go, boys. I mean, you got to toss the like and the sub. You know, when we go live, we just reached over 20,000 subscribers last week. That's absolutely insane. Another good point made by Ryan. Would you and Matt ever consider showing off your stand-up skills on a bag or perhaps your nasty Canadian jiu-jitsu? We did a video, when was it, when you hit me hard in the chest and you meant it?
The fact that you said I hit you hard in the chest is sad.
No, but it was that video. We took a week off to retool. There is a little bit of footage there if you want to have a laugh and see something cool. Matt, let's have a look at the votes at Fight Night Picks over on the Instagrams. 417 total votes for Rodolfo to 68 for Anthony Hernandez. That's 86% for Rodolfo Vieira. Tyler, I'm sorry, I don't have a 2-fight leg this week, but I do have 2 legs. So if Hernandez is going to win, what does he have to do?
Defend takedowns like his life depends on it. Again, you've been really throwing me softballs with these last 2. What does he have to do? Not get taken down immediately by the black belt hunter.
That's what good teams do, man.
Oh, no, I understand. But, like, again, we talked about it the whole prediction video. Rodolfo Vieira is going to win this by submission. I just don't know when he's going to do it. It could be in the first round. It could be in the first minute. He is going to win this fight by submission, though. And it's nothing against Hernandez. It's just, you look at what he's shown, especially through his UFC tenure. He gets absolutely destroyed by Kevin Holland after he talked all this crap about Kevin Holland striking. And then we just see, oh, you get folded. So this is a tough stylistic matchup. We all know what the UFC is going to do with Vieira for his next couple fights. They're just going to keep on feeding him very favorable matchups.
Bailey Ripplinger really liked the bit about Adolfo Vieira at the start.
Is that straight up Sean O'Connell? Because if so, how's it going, Sean? Big fan.
Yeah, I've seen Sean O'Connell in the chat a couple of times. So if you're PFL $1 Million winner, Sean O'Connell, which that was a wild season.
That was.
And I had a lot of fun watching the PFL there.
Fun fact, the only season I've watched, but I did enjoy it.
And I'm really looking forward to this season. Early stoppage that came out this week, I spent an extended period of time talking about Julia Pajic. So if you get a chance, Julijapajic, Google her right now, take a second, look her up. She has a tiger tattoo on her throat, and I think she's going to be the next star in MMA. Matt, if we look at our next fight, let's talk about it. We have Maki Pitolo taking on Julian Marquez on the main card. Now, I did my Blondie impression in the original prediction video. If you want to hear more Blondie, well, this isn't the show for it. But if we focus on this fight, Julian Marquez coming off a really long layoff, back surgery that was botched, that had to be fixed. He switched camp from Extreme Couture over to Glory Fitness and MMA. So you know if Laura Sanko is going to be talking about this one, she's going to be talking about, well, Julian Marquez. For Coconut Bombs, hasn't really been the best run in the UFC. Didn't look great at welterweight in his debut, but it was overseas. He was taking on the hometown guy in Callum Potter. Callum Potter is what he is. We haven't seen the best out of Maki Pitolo. He's a hardcore striker. He doesn't have great cardio, if you want to boil this one down. Julian Marquez has been off for a long time. How good's his cardio going to be off of back surgery? He hits really hard. I saw some people asking about maybe a sub prop in this one. Maybe?
I don't really know what I think of this fight, if I'm being completely honest. Because here's the thing. Maki Pitolo hits incredibly hard. And you don't need me to tell you that. You can just look at the guy. And the way he throws punches, too. Maki Pitolo's not going out there like Michael Bisping, working behind the jab, trying to set his footwork up. He's going out there trying to knock you out with every punch he throws. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it does not. And that's why this fight is just a really fun fight. And I can't really say anything other than it. Is Julian Marquez hittable? Extremely. Does he get tired? Yep, every fight. And Maki Pitolo is kind of the same story for him as well. So this fight is one of those perfect, like, it might as well be at heavyweight. Let's not weigh in at 185. I like Maki Pitolo more so because of the time off for Marquez. I'm not a huge fan of a guy who already does have some trouble with his range, taking a lot of time off. Now listen, maybe he took all this time off. He's really worked on his footwork and his movement, but that's stuff that just takes in-cage time to really improve. So I like Maki Pitolo in this, but let's be honest, I'm not confident in my pick no matter who I was picking.
Matt the Mick hitting us up in the super chat. We also have Ryan Hinojosa. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Love you, boys. I love you, Ryan.
Hinojosa? I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm sorry. Let me know how to pronounce it properly. But love you, boys. Enjoy the fights tonight. Try not to spend it all in one place. Well, Matt's full-time with Fight Night Picks, so we do appreciate you for that. And yeah, the good point by Dr. Drain. Yes, they did scrap the first fight. It's unfortunate. This is the fight that we were split on earlier on in the week. I believe we're still split on this one as it stands. I got Julian Marquez, but again, to the point of I'm not putting any money on this one. Like these fights, you know, we have a whole year to build up a record. If I got this one wrong, I wouldn't be overly upset. And then the other thing, too, we're going to be watching this one on the Fight Companion that starts at 10 p.m. Eastern. So hang out with that one. Cartier, you're going to be there. So I appreciate you. And we got a sorry from Justin Zim. Oh, sorry, buddy? Maple syrup would probably make popcorn better. Just thinking of that one now. Now, if we have a look at the odds, Matt, Maki Pitolo open to plus 160. Underdog is now at a plus 137. A little bit of money coming in on him. For Julian Marquez, open to minus 185. Now at a minus 165. And that's the thing. You don't know what a guy like Julian Marquez is going to look like after such a long layoff. If we have a look over at Fight Night Picks, 275 total votes for Marquez. And we have 207 for Maki Pitolo. Apparently MMA gambling experts better than us, but Oliver, I really appreciate the super chat. We have GamerBot hitting us up with $50 in the super chat. I'm back, fellas. You have a feeling it's going to be a weird night. Hashtag Free Craig. Well, that helps us getting to the hashtag Free Craig. And yeah, Todd did not like Oliver's super chat. But it is what it is, and it stays up there for a little bit. So that's a good way to market yourself. You're going to spend money and use your marketing budget. Now, if we have, you know, an overall final pick, yeah, you're going Pitolo and I'm going Marquez here.
Yeah, and again, it's not that I'm overly confident in my pick. I just see Marquez. I've seen him get hit in, all of his fights. And Pitolo does carry absolute bricks in his hands. Coconut bombs, some might even call them. So I do like Pitolo. But again, if Marquez went out there and just kind of wore on him and head kicked him, I wouldn't be surprised.
All right, Matt. Let's go into our next fight. We have Ricky Simone taking on Brian Kelleher. And Matt, this is one of those fights, again, not putting any money on it, but I was surprised that there's such a spread on this fight. The fact that you have Ricky Simone as that big of a favorite. And you might say, well, that big, how big of a favorite is he? But he's just over like a minus 250. He's minus 257, open to minus 300 against Brian Kelleher that hits hard and can submit wrestlers. It's a bit of a surprise.
Okay, I've got the perfect comp for this fight. Brian Kelleher, to me, it's not that he's a Dan Kelly fighter, but the odds always kind of reflect it as if he is. And just let me explain. Brian Kelleher never gets a fair shake from the odds makers, and I don't really know why. He always is this absolutely massive underdog, and for not really a great reason. And he tends to win the fights where he is a big underdog. And Ricky Simone's sort of the opposite side of that. He's kind of like Alistair Overeem, where other than his last fight, of course, he's just this massive favorite every single time. And Ricky Simone, in the majority of his fights, tends to be a very heavy favorite. And I do think that's where we see such a big difference between these lines. It's just kind of a case where odds makers already love Ricky Simone, and they're already fairly down on Brian Kelleher. I do agree with you. This fight is way closer on paper than it is if you just look at the odds, because Kelleher just has all the counters to what Ricky Simone does well. He's got that beautiful guillotine. He's got all these different versions of the guillotine as well. He does have the big power on the feet, and that's something we've seen Ricky Simone struggle with in the past. But when I really ask myself, what's the most likely outcome for this fight, it's probably just going to be one of those Ricky Simone going to fight smart, not going to fight to... He doesn't fight to win, he fights not to lose. And sometimes it's a good thing, and I think in a fight like this it will be. If you can avoid those big exchanges with Kelleher, you're probably not going to get knocked out, and I doubt Kelleher is going to be able to take down Simone, so I like Simone in this.
My question for, and I'm dead serious, for Swarm Iguana saying, bro, y'all got to make it bigger. Do you want to make us smaller? and the graphic bigger? I'm honestly asking that question because we do appreciate constructive criticism. So we'll go there. This fight is off, I believe. Trev, it better not be. Somebody can check Twitter. Somebody better actually be serious and let us know. But if it's off, I'm going to be disappointed. So if we look at Ricky Simón, Brian Kelleher, again, Simón is a pretty sizable favorite at about a minus 250 or thereabouts. 328 total votes at Fight Night Picks on Instagram to 168 for Brian Kelleher. That's good for 66% on Ricky Simón. Big Boss doesn't like Simón. Listen, a lot of people are down on Simón because he got knocked out by Uriah Faber, who's an all-timer, but he's coming off retirement. Like, that was a bad look. Straight up, bad look. LFA champ shouldn't get knocked out by Uriah Faber, but it happened. And since then, it's been all right. So I still have Ricky Simón. I think the wrestling is going to be quite good. Again, you saw Brian Kelleher take on, like, if Ricky Simón had his best day, like he woke up, he had a good breakfast, he rehydrated, he drank body armor, he wore his Reebok, he did all the sponsorship things, and then he went in there and fought to his best. He beat Cody Stamann on his worst day. So maybe that could happen.
You just said a lot right there, and okay, some of it made sense. I think, okay, I just need a second to... Brian Kelleher is my favorite underdog on this whole card, and I'll just start with that. And listen, I have Gilbert Burns winning this main event. I can say that now, not giving anything away. I really like Brian Kelleher as the underdog in this card, although I am still going to pick Ricky Simón. If you're looking for an underdog pick, I don't think this is a bad one, and for all the reasons that we had laid out. I love the power of Kelleher, especially on the feet. I like how he can get around the defense of Ricky Simón, because Simón will sometimes just put his hands up and not do a lot with it. I don't see Brian Kelleher as having like an Alexander Volkov level of striking by any means, but yeah, I'm going to pick Simón, but if you are looking to try to make money and you're looking for an underdog pick, this is not a bad one.
Yeah, Ricky Simón's still on the card. You're a donkey, whoever was in the chat earlier. So thanks for that momentary heart attack. Matt, Kelvin Gastelum's taking on Ian Heinisch. We were split on this fight earlier on in the week. I thought I had like a quick boom, got him when you talked about the fact that, Heinisch could struggle against a southpaw. I'm sure it was a southpaw. He kicked his leg and knocked him out. And he looked pretty good. But yeah, I mean... This is weird because Kelvin Gastelum's been taking on top 7 guys for the last number of years now to this point. I mean, let's talk about some of the guys he's fought. He lost to Weidman. He beat Bisping. He beat Jacare Souza. He fought the champ, the champ now, in Adesanya. He fought Jack Hermanson. Even in the fight that he lost between those two, he fought Darren Till. He's fought the highest level competition. Heinisch hasn't yet. Heinisch has looked good in the UFC. He hasn't looked great. There hasn't been some, super statement win other than Gerald Meerschaert fight where I went, man, Ian Heinisch is amazing.
I don't know if that's a statement win, though, and that's the real problem. Again, the fact that we're talking about Ian Heinisch's most impressive win being against Gerald Meerschaert kind of tells you what you need to know about Ian Heinisch up to this point. And it's nothing against Heinisch. I like his skill set. He has a massive hole in his game, though, that I do have a big problem with. And when you look at who he fought, well, he lost to. I always think he fought to a draw because I get Heinisch and Vettori in my head mixed up. But when he fought Omari Akhmedov, you can kind of see they did everything very similar. Of course, Heinisch, I would say the better striker, but not by a crazy amount by any means. And Heinisch, who can wrestle himself, just kind of get outworked that whole entire fight. And you can tell, we always used to talk about this, we haven't mentioned it as much, but Ian Heinisch just kind of keeps the same pace through the fight. But he doesn't start at like a 10 or a 9 like Frankie Edgar does, and they can keep that 9. He starts at like a 6 and just keeps that going through the whole entire fight. And it's not like he's going to fall off this massive wall at any point, but if you're a guy like Kelvin Gastelum who does have a massive speed advantage, especially on the feet, I do think you can start to find holes early on, and they're just going to get bigger as the fight progresses. Like, if Kelvin Gastelum can start teeing off on Heinisch in the first minute of this fight, in the 11th minute, by the time the third round rolls around, if neither guy gets finished, he's going to be finding those even easier and easier and easier. I just see this fight as it progresses getting easier for Kelvin Gastelum, and I look at Ian Heinisch, it's not like he doesn't have finishing ability, but he's only got one finish in the UFC, and it was against a guy in Gerald Meerschaert, who, yes, is much bigger than Kelvin Gastelum, but is in no means the striking threat that Gastelum is. It's not that it's an unwinnable fight for Ian Heinisch. I just really like Gastelum in this one.
If you get Kelvin Gastelum and he's on, and this is the trouble, he's had 3 fights where he said he's totally on. The fight against Adesanya, the more I've gone back and watched it, and I know we did a whole video on who looked best in a loss, and Kelvin Gastelum was one of our guys. At the end of the fight, he didn't look great, but he looked good to start.
He dropped Adesanya with a head kick.
He looked good. And then he fought Darren Till fighting in a mirror, and then his last fight, he didn't really look like he wanted to be there. But the other comment that I wanted to go back to from just my 2 cents, and you're here every week, and we appreciate you, the part about looking scared, I don't look into that one too much. I mean, a lot of people said Poirier looked scared when he was going to fight McGregor for a second time.
When people start bringing up body language on Twitter, that's when I just close it. And I know I had done it for Jessica I, but other than Jessica I, who is the one example that you can really point to throughout her whole UFC career, and when she is over emotional, she doesn't fight well. People try to do this. They're like, oh, he looked nervous in an embedded video. He also played Call of Duty in the embedded video, but I doubt that's all he did throughout his training camp. I don't get why that's such a big talking point, especially nowadays, or it just feels like every time we come off a Conor McGregor fight week, everyone is a body language expert and they want to talk about it. Kelvin Gastelum's going to win this fight. Very overconfident about it, too, because the more I've been sitting here, the more confident I've been getting. I just don't see how Ian Heinisch can take down Gaslam, and I do think he needs to take down to win this fight. That's how I look at it, but I am curious, because you are a lot higher on Heinisch than I am in this fight. How do you see Ian Heinisch beating Kelvin Gaslam? Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I like Ian Heinisch's wrestling. I think that his cardio, where it just stays put, especially in a 3-round fight against Kelvin Gaslam. If it was a 5-round fight, I would definitely favor Kelvin Gaslam even more. Here's the trouble with Ian Heinisch in this fight. You're right. The more I thought about it, the fact that you got Southpaw Gaslam in the pocket, his hand speed's a lot quicker. In terms of volume, he's going to land. If Ian Heinisch comes out here, and a lot of people like this, and we're Bangkok ready for this one, it's going to be really, really difficult to try and, do a whole lot against Ian Heinisch. But here's the thing. If he comes out here Bangkok ready, well, how much wrestling is Ian Heinisch going to want to do? And that's the thing that I worry about. I don't think he's going to wrestle all that much. I actually like the switch of the pick in Gaslam in this fight because I like the hand speed. Now, it has to be 100% Gaslam because I don't feel overly confident in the pick. I don't love the odds. I mean, if you look at Kelvin Gaslam to this point, he's what, a 2-1 favorite or thereabouts? If we go over to best fight odds, open -190, got as low as a -220, and right now -206. If we have a look over at Ian Heinisch, who's getting worked on by a guy in jeans, +165 now at a +171. So it is a tricky one, but yeah, I've got the guy, Kelvin Gaslam.
Okay, I agree with some of your breakdown on Heinisch, but this is the thing I worry about. I don't think him having a more Muay Thai heavy style is going to take away from his wrestling. If anything, we see this with some fighters. GSP got better at wrestling because of karate. Like, I don't think the fact that we see him with that one light foot is going to take away from the wrestling of Ian Heinisch. And with Ian Heinisch, too, the fact that he is a more Muay Thai-centered striking approach isn't going to be good in this fight, because the thing you have to remember about Muay Thai is the reason you can have that front leg bouncing is because you're not really moving that much. There's no threat of the takedown. Whereas if you're boxing, though, both feet do have to be planted constantly. So, yes, you are more susceptible to the leg kick, but you have much better footwork yourself. And for Gaslam, his footwork in the pocket is phenomenal. If you're able to outstrike Israel Adesanya in the pocket consistently for any period of a fight, much less 4 rounds at a time, I think you can definitely knock out Ian Heinisch. So I like Gaslam in this one. If Ian Heinisch comes out and looks like a completely different fighter because he has shown the ability to make big improvements in between every fight, I'd be really happy. I would love to see, Ian Heinisch 3.0 get this win, and then we just have all this brand new talent in the middleweight division. I doubt we're going to get it, though.
It brings up a good point. This is a fight you stay away from, and that's why I'm switching the pick over to Kelvin Gaslam from Ian Heinisch. Matt, let's get into our co-main event of the evening. Yikes. Maycee Barber taking on Alexa Grasso. And from the comments during the week, this is the one thing that I think I can boil it down to. A lot of people don't think that we gave Alexa Grasso a big enough opportunity to get the win. I'm pretty sure we talked about the fact that she's a better technical boxer and she throws more volume and she herself has good footwork. It's just when she's taken on a lot of good fighters with pressure, like Maycee Barber puts on a good pace and a lot of pressure, Alexa Grasso, you can kind of break up some of her flow, and that's the thing. That's why I like Maycee Barber originally.
I'll do you one better, Craig. I'm not only going to give Alexa Grasso credit, she's going to win this fight. There you go. Switch my pick. I like the volume of Alexa Grasso, and it is interesting, too, because I went back and watched a lot of her fights, and it's... trust me, I did it so you don't have to. I don't recommend watching all of Alexa Grasso's UFC fights, but... she does do a decent job with her head movement. She does get her head out of pocket. And the thing about Maycee Barber, she could catch her with a big shot and put her down. There's not a lot of knockout artists, especially really in women's MMA. But at 125, if Maycee Barber hits you, you are going to go down. It's one of the few facts in that weight division. I just like the footwork of Grasso. And I look back and I watch some of her fights. She fights a lot like Nina Ansaroff. And what Nina Ansaroff does really well is she uses her push kicks, kind of like Tony Ferguson, to keep her opponent at bay. And against someone like Barber, who doesn't throw very many kicks herself, and who is very boxing heavy, I just don't know how Barber's going to be able to close that distance. Can she wrestle? Yes, she can. I'm not going to take that away from her. But I don't see her going to her wrestling so often that she's just going to be able to win rounds this way. Now, maybe I look like an idiot, and Maycee Barber's going to take her down for the first 2 rounds. Grasso won't be able to get back up to her feet, because that is a big issue for Alexa Grasso. And even though I switched my pick to her, when she gets taken down, she just kind of closes her guard, doesn't do anything. So if you can take her down with even like 2 minutes left in a round, you could probably just sit out the rest of the round on top in top position, just not getting submitted, because she's not fishing for submissions herself. She just trying to stay in a defensive shell so that you can't progress past her guard, I still like Grasso. I think the volume's going to be able to get it done for her. I like her cardio. I know this is only a 3-round fight, but again, I like her cardio. I know that she can fight at a very elevated pace for 3 rounds very easily. I'm going to pick Alexa Grasso in this fight, but again, there's a reason I'm not putting any money on this card at all. And it's because I have no idea who's going to win this fight. Like, this is a weak co-main event, if you will. But I think there's a good chance for both fighters to get the win.
Jack Lawson, we both go with that one quite often, but what I will say is I like Maycee Barber in this one due to the fact that if she decides to wrestle, I think she has a huge advantage. Yeah. And again, it's that pressure. We've talked about a lot of different fighters. And listen, I got it wrong in a sense. Well, no, I got it wrong in the pick. But this one kind of feels like a fight that we had recently. Remember Mahmoud Murata fought Andrew Sanchez. And listen, the styles are different, but you have a boxer with really good footwork taking on somebody who puts on really good pressure and can mix it up and wrestle. Sanchez fought like a donkey and kept his hands a little low. He got hit. He didn't incorporate his wrestling. For Maycee Barber, if she's going to go in there, if she's going to wrestle, if she's going to take Alexa Grasso down and really kind of try and wear on her, she's somebody that's going to move for position. She's somebody that's going to weigh down very heavily. Maycee Barber's been at 125. Alexa Grasso obviously moving up. You look at the losses. The Randa Marcos fight, a little tricky. She got the win. It was by split. You look at the other losses. Listen, it's hard to look good against Carla Esparza. She's probably going to get a title shot. And that seems kind of crazy to say in 2021, but it's true. And then the loss, Tatiana Suarez, but you're going to lose to Tatiana Suarez. So yeah, for me, I'm going to stick with Maycee Barber. Let's have a look, see what the people are saying at Fight Night Picks over on the Instagrams, Matt. Little bit of a surprise. 298 total votes for Barber to 195 for Grasso. That's 60% for Barber to 40% for Grasso. But yeah, this is one of those ones, it is really tricky because you have technique against the power. I think that, again, that X factor is the fact that Barber most likely going to wrestle. I really do like the layoff for Barber. And listen, you don't love the injury, but you like the layoff because a fighter that's this young is probably going to take the time to learn a couple of things and add some wrinkles to their game.
I think you're right, but the only concern I do have with that is you don't know what you need to improve by not doing it. And for Maycee Barber, there were quite a few issues in that fight against Roxanne. Listen, I know she tore her ACL. She still got taken down. She still got controlled. She still took a lot of damage in that fight. Alexa Grasso fights like a much younger and much better version of Roxanne Modafferi, especially nowadays. So I like Alexa in this fight. It should be a very fun fight. Should be a very competitive matchup, but I'm going to say Grasso by decision.
Yikes. All right, Matt, let's get into our main event of the evening. We have a great fight, and again, appreciate everybody for tuning in. We're right up around 1,000 people watching, only 178 likes. You got to toss that like, you got to toss that sub. We get ready for this fight, Matt, and you've got Kamaru Usman taking on Gilbert Burns, former training partners over at what was Hard Knocks 365, now Sanford MMA. Usman learned everything he needed to know in MMA.
Everything.
And then he decided to go to Elevation, now training with Trevor Whitman, hanging out with Justin Gaethje. I'm sure that's an interesting friendship. They probably just sit there and drink plain water and unsalted potato chips, and that's all they do. But you look at this fight, Gilbert Burns looking in incredible shape. He's in the best shape of his life. His striking's on point. His jiu-jitsu's on point. Usman's wrestling's on point. I think we're really going to get the best version of both of these fighters, and that's what really excites me about this one.
I love the Mike Goldberg prep to this. Gilbert Burns, probably in good shape. He is fighting for a title. I would hope to God he's in good shape. This is such a fun fight. And again, everyone's been talking about the thing that we've been talking about. Kamaru Usman is phenomenal at wrestling. That is his get out of jail free card. No matter what happens in the middle of an MMA fight, Kamaru Usman can secure a takedown. This guy like Gilbert Burns, is that always your best path to victory? Now, we have seen Gilbert Burns taken down in the past. And again, he's not going to submit you the second you go to the ground with him. But I really don't recommend taking down Gilbert Burns by any means. We've seen him take a no. We've seen him somewhat controlled in the past. I doubt Kamaru Usman is going to take that game plan. To me, Kamaru Usman has to make this fight boring, and it sucks to say that, but it is his best path to victory. Don't know why that was so hard to say. Because for Usman, in the middle of the cage, could he outstrike Burns? I think he can because he throws a lot of straight shots and he does have a really good jab. But the kicks of Burns are going to give Usman trouble. And it's that left kick to the body that Burns really likes to go to. Burns' striking style is a lot more similar to Jan Blachowicz than you might think. And I know that's a weird comp, but he does throw a lot with just his arms. He doesn't put his body behind his shots. And it's weird because with Blachowicz and Burns, they both have an incredible amount of power. It's just a very weird similarity they both have in their striking. But when they both move forward, they like using that lead left kick to the body because most people think it is going to come up high, especially at the end of a combination. So you see it, Dominic Reyes did it every time. He keeps on raising that right hand high, high, high. And then, of course, that kicks open to the body. Gilbert Burns can kick hard, and we saw that in the Woodley fight. We had never seen his kicks all that much up until the Woodley fight, but we finally saw him go 25 minutes. He not only kicked to the leg, kicked to the body. He's a very dynamic striker.
George makes a really good point in the chat saying some people are going to be surprised when Usman wins all the striking exchanges tonight. I would be very surprised, and the thing that I like about Kamaru Usman, especially in when he fights wrestlers, when he fights jiu-jitsu practitioners, he's really been able to stifle everybody else's game plan. He's been able to implement his own, and especially in the Covington fight, you saw how good his volume was. Maybe, his boxing isn't as technical as insert GSP comparison or whoever you want to put in there, but his boxing has continued to improve. I think training with Trevor Whitmire is only going to accentuate that. I think training with a guy like Justin Gaethje definitely helps in a fight like this one. But for Kamaru Usman, yeah, it is really tricky. Take on a guy like Gilbert Burns that can really switch it up in a lot of different ways. Gilbert Burns can come out there, and listen, it's not an Ian Heinisch comp or a Khalil Roundtree comp, but he can come in there with a Muay Thai stance and just start chopping away with those legs, really start throwing the kicks, like you said, to the leg, to the body, to the head. He kind of has to worry about getting taken down, but oh, by the way, as you already know, some of the best jiu-jitsu in the game. So that's what makes this fight very interesting. I would think, like a lot of people are saying, if Usman wins, it's going to be a boring decision. He's going to press the pace up against the cage like he did last summer against Jorge Masvidal. And I don't think you're wrong. I think that's probably the path to victory for a guy like Kamaru Usman. I think training with Trevor Whitman's only going to shore up maybe some of the holes that he had in his game before. I think that's probably about it.
I agree, but then you look at it on the flip side with Gilbert Burns staying at the camp that kind of made Usman into the monster that we know today. And it is interesting because I had thought about this, but a lot of people were talking about it, and then Burns himself mentioned it. He sees the big advantage of him staying in his training camp is, yes, okay, Henry Hoof might not be in his corner. He still has Vicente Luque. He still has Michael Chandler. He still has all those great training partners. Logan Sterling, another great guy who can emulate Kamaru Usman very well. Now, does he have the striking movement? Does he have the power? Of course not. But if you're just looking for a guy to train your wrestling with in MMA...
And a big guy at 170 pounds.
I think that's a great point. I really do. Logan Sterling's kind of the perfect guy to do it with. And I love the fact that his best friend's Vicente Luque. So you have one of the best Muay Thai strikers in MMA. Who's your best friend you train with all the time? Logan Sterling, one of the best wrestlers in MMA. You train with him all the time. And then Michael Chandler, just kind of like that perfect guy to put everything together. I love the training partners that Gilbert Burns has coming into this fight. I love that Gilbert Burns is the counter to everything Usman does, but I do agree with, and I forget who commented it, if Usman goes out there and just jabs Gilbert Burns in the head for 25 minutes and stays on his bike, I wouldn't be surprised either. I think that is also a likely outcome because, again, Gilbert Burns' striking has gotten a lot better, and I think that's something we all have to talk about when you talk about Gilbert Burns, especially at 170. We've never really seen him get hit at 170, though. Like, okay, so you knock out Damian Maia in a minute. Good for you. No one's ever done it before, but that's really impressive. Tyron Woodley threw a couple overhands. One landed. Burns seemed to eat it well. I'm not saying he has any problem with adversity. I'm just saying we've never really seen him have to go through any long, sustained damage at 170, and I'm curious to see what that'll look like.
The comment I had to point out there, Matt, is gift of nothing, and I've seen you here before, and we appreciate you tuning in. And Goofy Willie saying Usman by toe hold.
I mean,
that's an old Frank Mir against Tank Abbott. Go back and watch that fight on Fight Pass if you can. I don't like them pretty boys. But the point of it is, Burns is Maia 2.0, but Maia didn't strike like this. And Maia didn't wrestle like this. Maia would kind of get you against the cage and get behind you, and then he'd take your back and he'd choke you out. And it was really interesting to watch, and it still is. I mean, that guy up into his 40s, I'd watch it. I'd probably pay for it, too.
There's less physical strength with what Maia does. Like, Maia is 100% technique, and he just knows the exact little positions and, all the intricacies of jiu-jitsu. Gilbert Burns has all that knowledge, but he's also insanely jacked and only 32. So if he wants to just brag or yank on your arm, he can. I'm not saying he's like Francis Ngannou against Anthony Freight Train Hamilton, where he was like, here's your arm. If I pull on this, I can probably get a submission win. But he does have that athleticism X factor that not a lot of MMA fighters do.
So for me in this fight, again, if we have a look at the odds, maybe not surprising. Usman gained a bit of traction here in the last couple of days. Open to minus 225 is now minus 269. If we look at Gilbert Burns, plus 190 now at a plus 217. I had to look really early on at Fight Night Picks as soon as these came out. But 321 total votes for Usman, and you have 232 for Burns. That's good for 58% Usman, 42% Burns. I'm going with, and new in this one, I'm sticking with the pick of Gilbert Burns. But listen, again, would I be overly surprised if Kamaru Usman won? No. And again, it's not the best of endorsements in terms of a win here, but I'm sticking with the pick of Burns.
Okay, I want Burns to win this fight so bad. I really like watching Gilbert Burns fight. He doesn't get tired. He's a great striker. He's great at jiu-jitsu. I really like Gilbert Burns. I'm picking Gilbert Burns even though Kamaru Usman's going to win a unanimous decision. Like, I'm picking Gilbert Burns. That's the official pick. I hope he hits him with an overhand right and chokes him out in the first round. But I hope we are all in agreement, even you, when we can all admit Kamaru Usman's probably just going to win another decision tonight.
Yeah, it's probably going
to
to
happen. It sucks to say that. Like, I think of Gilbert Burns at the top of this weight division. It's like, okay, he can fight Wonder Boy, and then we've got like 10 out of 10 jiu-jitsu against 10 out of 10 striking. We can get Covington, which is like Usman, but just a slightly different version of him. There's so many fun matchups that we haven't seen Gilbert Burns in yet at 170 because he is so new to the weight division that I just really want to see him around in the top 5 for a very, very long time. I'm saying Gilbert Burns, even though I probably know that's the wrong pick.
Yeah, and again, not putting a lot of money on it. Keith, take the bet out, because yikes. All right, Matt, let's get back to the start. We'll rip right through the entire card. We should, however, Matt, and we haven't yet, so let's get into it. Talk about Manscaped. And Sport for Fight Night Picks brought to you by Manscaped. Who's the best men's below-the-waist grooming? Big news! Manscaped just released their new cologne scent to help you feel good and smell good all over at all times. Who knew smelling this good could feel this good? Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Join the movement for all your below-the-waist grooming. Matt, we're going to have the Manscaped cologne here very shortly.
We're 2 of those 2 million.
I like that cologne. And listen, I'm going to tell you about me trimming my nuts in the shower. You know Craig Allen trims his nuts in the shower. I told you about it. Sean McMinn hit us up for $149 in the super chat. So let's talk about it. I shave my nuts in the shower with the Lawnmower 3.0. Listen, there's a light on it. It works very good. If you're inside of a cave, if you're underwater, you can use it because it's completely waterproof. Maybe you're an underwater welder and you're upside down and you got that welding beam and you're going there, but with your other hand, you're shaving your nuts, and you can do that. Your employer might not like it. Your employer might not like it, but Manscaped will. So head on over to manscaped.com. Use promo code FNP. You'll get 20% off your order and free shipping. Everybody knows that Manscaped has a perfect package 3.0 for all your below-the-waist grooming needs, but they didn't stop there. Complete your grooming game with the new refined cologne signature scent by Manscaped. With the same signature scent that's in all the Manscaped formulas, this cologne has a perfect complement to the collection. Light, approachable, gentlemanly in all the right ways. Think of it as your wingman for the night to keep you fresh and ready. I've got the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant. I use it. It's like a salve. You just slap that on there.
It's better than a wingman. It's like having a whole team at your side.
The Crop Reviver Ball Toner. Little spritz. Right in the air. Smells good. Now they've got the cologne. Calming and inviting. The signature scent introduces a light citrus burst before settling into the anchoring notes of vetiver? What's vetiver?
It's the first time I've ever seen that.
And a woodsy masculine finish. This 50 ml spray cologne is even hypoallergenic, cruelty-free, dye-free, paraben-free, and 100% vegan. Don't eat it, but it's 100% vegan. This beautifully designed glass bottle makes a statement, and the manly scent is attractive to set the mood. Also, be sure to check out the Perfect Package 3.0 with all the essentials for below-the-waist grooming, including the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, crop formulations. Yes, I'm talking about ball deodorant and toner to keep your testes, your besties, and the weed whacker. That is what it is. So now you get the Manscaped Refined Cologne over there.
We have hats, too.
People are still hanging out. A lot of people saying, WTF, where's the Maverick fight? And Craig, my ball hair will jam that little trimmer. Well, you got to use it maybe more often. Get 20% off and free shipping with code FNP at manscaped.com. Your balls and body will thank you. Matt, it's great stuff. We really appreciate Manscaped. They're going to be here for the next number of months. So that's exciting.
It's exciting stuff going on.
And you know why? Because everybody that's tuning in has really helped us out with that. You support them, you support the channel, you help us. It's with the merch, it's with the stuff with Manscaped. Now, Matt, let's get through this and let's talk about this fight card one more time. Gabe Green's taking on Phil Rowe. The final pick on this one?
Gabe Green.
Matt's got Gabe Green. I've got Gabe Green. And, Jim Lester. You were digging the channel until you found it cool to talk about my balls. Well, it's a sponsor for the show. And Team Ghost, your donkey. And you understand it at the same time. Andre Ewell taking on Chris Gutierrez. Very, very close fight. William Watson, you're darn tootin'. I think this is a good fight. I like Andre Ewell's hair. You're darn tootin'.
Oh, Craig says a bunch of words that don't go together. I like Andre Ewell in this. I like him by decision. This should be a very fun fight. I'm excited for this one. I'm looking just to see more improvements out of Andre Ewell in this fight, to be completely honest. It feels like he's been a guy who's been kind of teased as a top 15 for a while now. He's just never really been able to get over the hump, so hopefully we do see a nice version of Andre Ewell in this one.
Mac L, can we get cheaper shipping to the U.S.? If you can get Canada Post or anybody else to ship or cheaper to the States, you let me know, because I can't. And that's because shipping is expensive to go from Canada elsewhere. Polyana Viana taking on Mallory Martin. It's actually cheaper to ship to the States from Canada than it is to ship out west in Canada. It's kind of crazy. Polyana Viana taking on Mallory Martin. I have Mallory Martin in this fight.
I said a bunch of rude things about Polyana Viana. Yeah, I've got Mallory Martin in this one.
And if you have to apologize to her like you did to Shanna Dobson, so be it. Belal Muhammad, Dhiego Lima, what are you thinking?
I like Belal Muhammad an awful lot. I would use an L word, but every time I use that word, the fighter ends up getting brutally knocked out. So I like Belal Muhammad in this.
All right, Matt, I like Belal Muhammad as well. We have Adolfo Vieira taking on a really tough out in Anthony Hernandez. He's been out a couple times, and it hasn't really worked out all that great in the UFC, but a former LFA champ. So I have the fan club at the ready. I've got Adolfo Vieira here.
Hit me with a choo-choo.
Choo-choo!
Adolfo's winning this fight.
All right, Matt. Maki Pitolo taking on Julian Marquez. We were split on this one to start off the week. I've got Julian Marquez, and hopefully he shows up.
So which sloppy fighter lands a big punch first?
I'm going Marquez.
Perfect, Maki Pitolo.
All right, Matt. We're splitting hairs here. Ricky Simone taking on Brian Kelleher. Closer fight than the odds would suggest. I've got Ricky Simone.
I also have Ricky Simone, but if Brian Kelleher won this fight, even if he finished him, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
All right, Matt. Ricky Simone is the pick. We have Kelvin Gaslam taking on Ian Hynish, changing the pick in the 11th hour. Both of us with Kelvin Gaslam.
I like Gaslam a lot on this card. I really do. I think the hand speed's going to give Heinisch issues, and I just haven't seen anything out of Heinisch that says, hey, you're ready to beat top 10 guys yet. And I still think Gaslam's in that top 10.
Way she goes. Next fight, co-main event, Macy Barber, Alexa Grasso. You switched your pick.
I did. I went with Grasso. Again, I've got to stick to my rule. If someone has more skill, but you have more power, I've got to go with the more skilled.
All right, Matt. Going Macy Barber. Jim Lester, they took your chat away. You're laughing at us for promoting Manscaped. If you're a big tough guy, the UFC sponsored by Manscaped, you goofball. Billy Hazelton with the 250, waiting for the two-pick banger. I'm sorry, Billy. I'm not doing a two-pick banger, so I'm sorry, bud.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Like, my bank account wishes I had a two-pick banger for tonight, too, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry, Billy. And Kamaru Usman taking on Gilbert Burns. It's going to be presented by Manscaped in the UFC's end, and it is on our way, so sorry, Jim. Overall pick here.
I like Gilbert Burns again. I'm not the conductor of the Gilbert Burns train, but I was definitely early aboard. I like Burns in this. He can submit him, he can knock him out, he can win by decision. Let's be honest, though. Kamaru Usman, probably win a decision.
Matt, I agree. I'm going with Gilbert Burns, but if Kamaru Usman wins by decision, and if that floats your boat, we'll see what happens. We have Max hanging out from the Netherlands.
Thank you.
Jake Allen just making saves for those Montreal Canadiens. Cody Kelleher hanging out from Iowa. And Matt, I'm really looking forward to these fights. We have the Fight Night Picks Fight Companion for the main card at 10 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. Now, I did set it for 9:55, so you can get early. You get a 5-minute early. We get all excited for it. And I'm looking forward to this main card because, again, some of these fights are very close. And that's the reason why there's no two-legger. It's close. There's a lot of good ones. But we're going to be there for Simone and Kelleher, Marquez, Pitolo, Gaslam, Heinisch, Barber, Grasso, Usman, Burns. So if you want to hang out, have some fun. Maybe you're down on this card. Maybe the boys can lift your spirits. We're a little bit less serious. We have a little bit more fun over there.
Yeah.
So hang out, and we will be live for that. Matt, this is an aside, too. We have about 1,000 people tuning in. So I want to say this. Tomorrow, I'm taking Valentine's Day off, but we'll make the picks on Monday. We have a holiday in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's Family Day in New Brunswick. So on Monday, we'll make the videos. We'll put them out at the very end. And Cody Kelleher, like I said, you're hanging out. Who else? We got Keith hanging out. Everybody looking forward to it. So, Matt, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to the fights.
See you guys soon.
And we will see you soon. As we always say, Matt, with Fight Night Picks,
let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, recorded in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. It's time for Fight Night Picks with your host, Craig and Matt.